Welcome back, everyone. As I mentioned earlier, I hope everybody had a wonderful summer. We are heading back now into our wellness series, starting with our brain wellness webinar today. And we haven't done this one yet for the consumer wellness sessions. My name is Joanne Carr, and I will be your moderator throughout all of these presentations with regards to consumer wellness. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask your questions throughout this morning's presentation using the chat or the Q&A options available to you. I record all of our sessions and I also send out a link to the presentation, so you will be able to use this as a future reference. So today we're going to be looking at the brain. The brain is a wonderful organ. It has so many jobs involved. Today we're going to just look at a few things with regards to what the brain can do. We're going to look at 4 different supplements that we make at Omega Alpha that can help support the brain. And there are many that can help support the brain, but I've picked some of the major ones that research has supported through the years, especially when we're looking at the most recent scientific research, because we like to stay abreast of the most recent science and back up what we're saying with regards to our ingredients and our formulas. So the brain, in conjunction with the spinal cord, regulates non-conscious processes and coordinates most voluntary movement. So it is the site of consciousness, allowing us to think and learn. And it is back to school time for those of you with children or grandchildren, or for any of you that are going back to school. I actually consider these webinars, they're an opportunity for learning. So I would say this is all about education as well. So the brain consists of 3 main parts. The cerebellum controls and coordinates movements of the muscles, like walking or swinging the arms. The cerebrum, which has 2 parts, receives messages about sight, touch, hearing, and taste. Other areas control movement, speech, learning, intelligence, and personality. And the brain stem controls breathing and heartbeat and links the brain to the spinal cord and the rest of the body. And the spinal cord is, of course, part of the central nervous system, the brain being the main leader. And when you think about any time that you get together with friends and you're sitting around having a coffee, a few drinks, or you're going out for lunch, or whatever the case might be, when you communicate with each other, there are neurotransmitters in the brain that are much like us when we get together with family and or friends and we have conversations. So these neurotransmitters are sending messages to each other, and of course that's all part and parcel of how the brain sends messages to the rest of the body. So it's very important that we really support brain health. And what I've found in general over the years is that most people tend to forget about their brains until they start forgetting things and they start questioning, I used to have a really good memory. Why are things slipping now? And I used to remember people's birthdays and I used to remember this or that. But I do find in general that people tend to wait until their cognitive function starts to decline. Now, that's a normal function associated with aging, by the way. We all tend to forget things. You may go down the stairs and say, what was I going down the stairs for? I know I've done that many times in the past, but that's normal. It's when we start to forget things that, have just been recently told us. We have a conversation with somebody and then we can't remember a couple minutes later. These are some of the things that lead us down the road or the path to, what's happening with me now. So the brain is a very intricate organ. It's constantly dealing with hundreds of messages from the world around us, what we're taking in, whether we're seeing things, we're hearing things, tasting, smelling, touching, moving. There's so many intricate factors involved with how the brain is working and how it picks up messages from our environment. Messages travel from nerve cells all over the body, and they travel along nerve fibers to nerve cells in the brain. So we need to keep the nerve cells healthy. And that's what we're going to look at today. How are we going to be able, through supplementation? Of course, diet is very important as well. I always talk about that very briefly. It's not just what we're taking supplement wise, it's going to help support the brain. And we're going to look at, I'm going to mention a few types of foods that could be beneficial for brain health. Cranial nerves carry messages to and from the ears, eyes, nose, throat, tongue, and skin on the face and scalp. And this is basically a shortened version of what the brain does without keeping in all of these different technical terms that we use. It's like the Coles Notes version, I guess you could say. The spinal cord carries messages to and from the arms, legs, and trunk of the body. So my idea here is, and how I like to educate, is to keep things pretty simple so that we can grasp some of the things that are very important, but things that we look at in a nutshell, very much so. I don't like to get into the whole anatomy and the technical stuff because a lot of people then lose interest when we start talking like that. So as we go along, again, please feel free to write your questions out if you have any questions throughout today's presentation. And of course, I am recording this too. Antioxidants I talk a lot about in, I think, most, if not all of the presentations. When we look at oxidative damage that affects our brain specifically, we all know what it does to our muscles and what it can do internally to our organs. And looking at the brain as an organ, what can happen to the brain is we start to have a fuzzy memory, slower learning. Now, this can also fall into place with hormonal imbalances too. So sometimes our memories can be fuzzy as we're getting older. Normal process, hormonal imbalances as women go through PMS, menopause, different stages of their life, and men going through andropause for that matter. We don't tend to pick up or retain information as long as we once did as well. And this accompanies aging. These are normal processes that are normally go hand in hand with aging. Proanthocyanidins, try saying that 5 times fast. There's a lot of terminology we use in the world of supplementation. These are active ingredients, and we call them bioflavonoids. They're vitamin-like substances, basically. And they're responsible for the blue or the cyan pigment that gives certain plants their distinguishing blue hues, whether we're looking at blueberries or whatever the case might be. That color of cyan or blue is responsible for protecting the brain. So that's why I always suggest people eat the rainbow and you eat a variety of different colors, because different colors of fruits and vegetables will provide antioxidants for different parts of your body. Now, unfortunately, one antioxidant is not going to do it all for the entire system. So we're going to look at a product that can help support some of the major organ systems in the body. I just wanted to have a little bit of a prelude here with regards to talking about antioxidants. Dark red grape seeds are rich in proanthocyanidins as well, so are stored in the brain amongst other organ systems. Other plants well known for their high levels of proanthocyanidins include pine, so maritime pine bark, and ginkgo trees or ginkgo biloba. And you're gonna see why I'm mentioning these first of all on this slide, because it's a perfect segue into what we're going to look at for our first supplement. So these apples, I've done this before. I think many of us have done this before, where maybe you've cut up an apple and you've left the apple slices on a plate and you've gone off to do something else and you've forgotten that you've left them there. Again, back to brain function or dysfunction. And then what happens is the pieces of the apple start to turn brown. That's a perfect example of oxidation. Rust on your car is another example of oxidation. So this example here with the apple, and again, just like others, I've left fruit in the fridge and forgotten about it, and it starts to turn brown and mushy, and it doesn't look nearly as good as when I first bought it. But these apples do demonstrate how oxidative damage or stress can affect fruits. Of course, they can affect vegetables as well. And we think about it, we can't see what's going on in our bodies. So day to day, we just go by any symptoms we're experiencing. So what goes on inside of our body is what we call oxidative damage. And of course, we don't want the inside of our system to look like these rotted out apples. So that leads me into the first product we're going to look at this morning, Super Antiox. And as the name basically lets us know what the product is all about. It's all about antioxidants. Now, I've shared this story before. Some of you may not be aware of it, but Dr. Gordon Chang is the CEO and the chief formulator here at Omega Alpha. And he has said to me in the past, Joanne, if I was ever stranded on a desert island and I could choose one supplement in the Omega Alpha line for myself, it'd be Super Antiox, because It provides 11 well-known antioxidants, including the ginkgo, the maritime pine bark, which we looked at on the slide before, the proanthocyanidins that support the brain, but also other antioxidants that are going to protect other systems in our body, because we're just not looking at our brains. We're also looking at our organs of detoxification. We're looking at, for men that are joining us this morning, prostate, breast health, immune health, skin health. Our skin is our largest organ, really, and it's our largest organ of detoxification. So we can support the skin, the immune system, and all these other systems, starting out with cognitive decline. So if you're starting to feel like you're forgetting some things, you can try the super antiox, but wait till the end of the presentation, because you're going to see some other ways that we can support the brain as well, and we can do so in tandem with a healthy diet, and we can, generally speaking, we can combine different supplements together. So what we're trying to do is provide a very cost-effective supplement that's going to protect some of the major organ systems in our body. So let's talk about cost-effective. Cost-effective is very important to you as a consumer, especially when you're trying to eat healthy and you're spending money on a lot of different things. You want products that work, that are cost-effective, and that are safe for ingestion. And you've got that all covered. All the boxes are ticked with regards to omega alpha anyway. So when we're looking at an 11 ingredient formula, that's pretty comprehensive for your entire system. So what a lot of people will do is they'll say, well, your product is more expensive than other products on the market. And I'm not really going to get into that per se. All I'm going to say is we need to be comparing apples to apples when we're comparing costs. If you're going to compare a single ingredient antioxidant formula to this one, ours is always going to be more expensive. 11 antioxidants are going to be more supportive, and it's going to cost more for you. So considering, if you were to buy each of these 11 antioxidants separately in the dosages that you'll find in this supplement, you're going to pay about $90 retail. And I don't know anybody who's going to want to pay that much money for a product like this, but you pay a third of the cost for all of these wonderful antioxidants in one formula. So that's why Dr. Chang has chosen this product as his go-to if he's ever stranded on a desert island, God forbid. Always keeping in mind that we're all about synergy and how we have multi-ingredient formulas for the most part in our human supplement line. It's going to support your body in a little bit more of a comprehensive way than if you were to just use one ingredient. So whether you're using it for cognitive decline, skin issues, photoaging, premature aging. Of course, we know the sun, smoking, and other dietary factors can lead to premature aging. Our liver can be supported with this product. Vision health, there's some bilberry in here. So keeping in mind that different antioxidants are stored in different organ systems, you can see why this is such a popular antioxidant-based supplement. Prostate health for men, we've got some lycopene in here. We can support the blood, cardiovascular health, blood sugar management. Metabolic disorders are running rampant among human beings nowadays. A lot of people are gaining weight. They can't figure out what, their blood sugar is out of whack. This is a great product to support blood sugar as well. Osteoarthritis, immune health with allergies. Now, if you're going to be using it for skin, keep in mind it might take a month or two before you start to know any changes. Nutraceuticals never work as quickly as medications do. They need to build up in your system. But think of this as, keeping your body protected from the inside out, and you will see your skin change. Any changes in our skin health is indicative of what's going on inside the body. So we suggest to take one capsule twice a day with food. Can you take more than that? Absolutely, to bowel tolerance. How is the antioxidant helping with osteoarthritis? Maritime pine bark, which is in this formula, is really good for people who suffer with osteoarthritis or fibromyalgia. I have a friend that uses this product along with the Sinuplex. They use it together to help with fibromyalgia because antioxidants are synonymous with being anti-inflammatory. So that's where it can link to osteoarthritis, any inflammation associated with muscle health, anything along those lines. Very good question. Thank you for that. sometimes if I forget to mention things, it's good that people are asking questions. So it's pretty protective for the entire body. Oh, wonderful. Yeah, excellent, Tammy. Thank you. Yeah, the Cineplex is great because it's like a multivitamin and anti-inflammatories, everything all kind of rolled into one. Now, let's look at there's different ways to support our brain. Super Antiox is not the only supplement that we make that can support the health of our brain. In fact, far from it. It's a way of using different nutraceuticals. Essential fatty acids can also support our brain health. And fatty acids, and I will talk about that shortly. Actually, the second point there is extremely important. But fatty acids are key building blocks to a healthy brain. Our brains are protected by what we call a myelin sheath, and that sheath is made up of fatty acids. So if we're not getting enough essential fatty acids in our diet, that how the myelin sheath protects the brain can be compromised. And unfortunately, in our Western diets, they tend to be deficient in what we call brain friendly omega 3 fatty acids coming from fish oil, coming from flax oil. Not everybody likes fish oil, not everybody likes eating fish, and I will talk about that when we get to the end, particularly when we look at DHA. And DHA is a short form for docosahexaenoic acid, which is difficult still for me to pronounce after all these years. So I just go by DHA for short. So DHA accounts for about 40% of the membrane phospholipid fatty acids in the brain. And that's a pretty large percentage when you look at it. Now, we get DHA from fish oil. We also get it from plant-based oils. The thing with that is when we take anything from a fish oil, it's readily absorbable by the body. So my suggestion is always to go for a fish oil or something that's all ready to work versus going for a flax oil. Now, having said that, I realize there are vegetarians out there in the world, of course, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing. What I'm saying is that plant-based oils need to be converted by our liver into the active DHA form that's going to support our brains. That's why I always say go with something that's all ready to work with the fish oil. But if you are vegetarian or you prefer a plant-based method of getting support for your brain, that will be converted by your liver. So you want to make sure that your liver is, you're not dealing with digestive issues, because that will compromise the ability of your liver to get the plant oil into the active DHA that's going to support your brain. So an imbalance of fatty acids may be linked to hyperactivity, depression, schizophrenia. Clinical studies indicate that, I'm not saying that anybody who's deficient is going to develop these issues, but fatty acids can be included in a program for people that are dealing with depression, which we see a lot of, anxiety, mental health issues, ADD, which we are seeing amongst young children, adults as well. So this is where we look at fatty acids as an integral addition to any program. And of course, I've got some research to support what I'm saying here. Clinical studies indicate that cognitive performance improves and focus with omega-3 supplementation, because it's not just about kids that might have a hard time focusing at school. Very appropriate time of the year, might I add. Adults also suffer with focus issues, and so this is where the fish oils or the plant-based oils can become very necessary for people. So omega-3, 6, 9 are essential fatty acids. I'm going to look at two of them this morning, starting with our omega-369 formula. Now, in the majority of individuals, I tend to find, and research supports what I'm saying here, that omega-6 and 9 are not so deficient in our diet. It's more the omega-3, and especially for those people who don't like eating fish or don't like taking omega-369 formulas, they need to make sure that they're getting their omega-3s from the diet, plant-based. If not, they're going to have to turn to a supplement. And this is where I suggest supplementation for people who are not getting these omega-369s in the diet, specifically omega-3. So we have a combination blend of mackerel, sardine, anchovy, which are the smaller fish. And when we look at smaller fish, there's less of a buildup of toxins in smaller fish than, say, salmon oil, because salmon is a fattier fish. So when we look at a fish that has a higher level of fat content, there's going to be higher level of toxins. But what we do at Omega Alpha to ensure that there's no PCBs, dioxins, heavy metals, because we have to think about the fish are swimming in the water system. Just like we're breathing the air around us, the quality of the air is going to affect our breathing and what's happening internally with us. The same thing with fish. There's a lot of sludge in the waterways. There's a lot of waste materials that's pumped out into the water systems. So fish are exposed to that. So what we do at Omega Alpha to ensure that you're getting an oil that's more pure is we use a molecular distillation process that uses, it's a cold system. We don't use heat at all, and we never suggest exposing these fatty acids to any type of heat. We want to keep our products in the refrigerator once they've been opened, and it will state that on the label. So you're ensured of a higher level of integrity with all of the oils involved. So this molecular distillation process is a cold process. We don't use any heat, and it basically removes any toxins that are found in the fish, of course, and you're left with an oil that's more pure. Don't ask me how this machine works. I have no clue, but it does work to remove the impurities from the oil. And it's a question we get from a lot of consumers, so that's why I thought I best talk about it. But aside from the fish oil, we also have plant-based oils in here. We've got flaxseed, we've got borage, and we've got sunflower oil. And then we've got vitamin E, and it's not uncommon to find vitamin E in oil-based formulas because vitamin E acts as an antioxidant, if you will, or a preservative that protects the integrity of the oils. So your brain is supported a little bit better. So, not just good for the brain, but for our hearts, our skin, our hormones as we go through different stages of life, our immune system. It's an anti-inflammatory. So you can provide anti-inflammatories through essential fats, especially omega-3s are known to be anti-inflammatory. If you get too much 6 and 9, they can be pro-inflammatory, which means it can work the opposite way. So that's why the ratio, the proper balance of omega-3s to 6 to 9 has been figured out for you. Osteoarthritis, again, another way Tammy brought up the osteoarthritis part with regards to super antiox. We're using different nutraceuticals in the super antiox. You can also use the omega-3s as a major anti-inflammatory for osteoarthritis sufferers, or even for fibromyalgia sufferers. Kidney and liver dysfunction, our organs of detoxification, can benefit from taking the omega-369 formula, and we suggest taking 3 soft gel capsules a day. How do you know you've taken too much? Some people follow the label. The label is suggested, or the dosing is suggested by Health Canada. Can you take more? Yes, you can. You take it to bowel tolerance. If you take too much vitamin C or too much magnesium or too many herbs, your stool can become looser, and that's a sign that you've taken too much. So you can overdo it with regards to supplementation. Just because they're natural doesn't mean you can't overdo it. So everybody is different with regards to bowel tolerance or what will change the consistency of their stool. Also, if you take too many polyunsaturated fatty acids like this, you can also gain weight because it's still considered a fat. There's saturated fats that we find coming from animal sources. We want to incorporate more polyunsaturated fatty acids like the 369 in this formula, fish oil. That's the healthier type of fatty acid because not all fats are bad. So if someone tells you that all fats are bad, that is a myth. That is not true. These are the types of fatty acids you want to get more of in your system. Then we have our high potency fish oil concentrate. This one is ready to work. It's ready to go to work. Just like, for example, an analogy I like to use with regards to the high potency fish oil versus the omega-369. Well, there's fish oil in that one too, but versus going with a plant-based oil. Remember the conversion factor by the liver. So if you happen to have to wear I don't have to wear a uniform to work. Well, I actually have my Omega Alpha t-shirt on right now, but if I show up to my webinar already wearing my Omega Alpha t-shirt, I'm a fish oil. I'm ready to work. But let's say you're going into work at a restaurant and you have to change into your uniform before you start to work. That time lag, there's a time lag involved. You're not ready to work as soon as you get to work. So that's like comparing a plant-based oil to a fish-based oil. You come to work already in your uniform, you're a fish oil. If you're not already dressed and ready to work, you're a plant oil. So again, the conversion factor by the liver will eventually get your system ready for dealing with, cognitive health or osteoarthritis or whatever the case might be. The high potency fish oil is a fish-based oil. So if you don't mind fish oil, this would be the one to go to. It's a 2-to-1 ratio of EPA to DHA. It supports the entire body. It also makes the skin softer. And with regards to Health Canada, it will suggest supporting the development of the brain, eyes, and nerves in children up to 12 years of age. Yes, children can use this product. We have a dosage based on the age of children. And of course, as we move into adulthood, we have dosing based on that. But generally speaking, and you won't see this anywhere, is that supplements in general are based on an individual weighing 150 pounds. That's the general rule. So you can write that down if you like. You won't see it in any of our literature. It's something that you won't see on a label. But as this product, just like with our 369 formula, has to go through a process, a molecular distillation process, all of our oils go through that distillation process, the molecular distillation. It's something that a lot of companies use, by the way, not just Omega Alpha, but it's a way to ensure that you're not consuming impurities from the fish. So we look at brain health, cardiovascular health, skin health. So looking outside of the box, which is what I love to do, because I don't like to pigeonhole these supplements and say, well, it's only good for this or it's only good for that. It's good for so many things. So if you start to take a fish oil or a plant-based oil for your brain, you might notice that your arthritic pain is starting to go away as well, or your immune system isn't as compromised as it once was, or your hormones are, you might not be going on that roller coaster of being nice and then not so nice. So there's different ways that fish oil or essential fatty acids can support the body, and the dosing is based on age. And of course, yes, you can go with higher dosing to bowel tolerance or until you start to see your stool get looser. And that's again an indicator of you've taken too much of any supplement. So the safety margin is very high with these formulas. Now, ginkgo biloba, a lot of people think of ginkgo biloba when they think of brain health. And that's normal because ginkgo biloba has been around for centuries. By the way, if any of you ever want more science-based information, I say this all the time, please let me know, because we've got wonderful scientific support and research to support why we use different herbs or different vitamins or different minerals. So I just speak very generally in these webinars, but if you do like to read more research-based information, please let me know. So let's look at ginkgo biloba. Ginkgo biloba, just like with any other herb, has active ingredients. For example, milk thistle has silymarin. They all have active components. The active components, like the glycosides and the terpene lactones, they are what help ginkgo biloba do what it does to enhance circulation to peripheral tissue. And so when we're looking at enhancing circulation to peripheral tissue, we're looking at also, for people who are dealing with erectile dysfunction, you'll find ginkgo biloba added to a lot of libido enhancing formulas. It enhances blood flow to the extremities. It enhances blood flow to the brain. And sometimes we just think, oh, I need a little bit more blood flow. As we get more blood flow, we're going to get getting more oxygen coming to our brain. So we will find that we remember things. We can focus better when we're getting more oxygen to the brain. We tend to forget organs of detoxification. We need blood flowing to all of our organs. And that's not, we have to include and remember the brain in this commentary. So this is where ginkgo biloba comes in. It can help enhance memory in adults, in teenagers. It's safe for teenagers to take. It's not contraindicated. As they start studying, they're getting back into their school studies. As we try to remember things on a daily basis, we don't have to be going to school. So it's good for our brain, getting more oxygen flowing through enhanced blood circulation, erectile dysfunction, enhancing energy. And these days, I talk to so many people who are dealing with low energy. So ginkgo biloba is one of these herbs that helps enhance energy, memory, for anyone with mild anxiety or allergies. And again, looking outside the box, ginkgo biloba is not for the brain, as you can clearly see here. Now, there are contraindications and cautions and warnings on all labels now due to Health Canada. We have a toll-free number that I highly suggest you use, or you can come to me directly. I think I've spoken with many of you already over the years, but there's cautions and warnings on the label quite often with regards to people taking certain medications in ginkgo biloba. Some people might be are dealing with cardiovascular issues. However, it will depend on what type of medication you're taking. So I can help you if you have any questions surrounding that, or I will speak to Dr. Chang about that. Sometimes people can't take ginkgo biloba depending on the nature of the illness, but we have these other lovely supplements that you can use for your brain if you're not able to take ginkgo biloba. And this is what I like about the Omega Alpha supplement line, is that you do have options. You know, if you can't take a specific ingredient, there's other ingredients available to you, or other supplements available to you. Now, let's look at supplement strategies for brain health. Just like with anything else in life, I find um, with the brain, it's no different when we're looking at our overall health, what we're eating, what we're drinking, all of these things. Ultimately, what I will say to keep things very simple is looking at the diet and looking at how colorful is your plate. Are you eating a variety of different colors of fruits and vegetables? If you're not, then the body will not be protected as much. Purples and blues are specifically supportive for the brain. So, whether we're looking at, and people will drink red wine. There's red wine extract in our super antioxidant. That doesn't mean that people can start going and drinking copious amounts of wine. That's not what I mean. It's just that a glass of red wine can be advantageous for people, but we don't want to overdo it, because yes, it's still red wine and it can be very beneficial for us, but then we have to look at the alcohol factor. So I don't want to give anybody the green light on just drinking copious amounts of red wine here. So we have to look at balance and moderation here. That's always a general rule of thumb, not going to extremes, but incorporating purples and blues into our diet in a variety of different colors. So now the question becomes, now that we're looking at all four products on the same slide, can you combine super antiox with fats, or go, the ginkgo biloba route and add it to super antiox, even though there's ginkgo biloba in the super antiox? And the answer to that question is yes. Sometimes we need to add more of a certain ingredient. A lot of people like just to take one product at a time, and that's what I usually suggest. Start with one product, because if you start to combine a bunch of different products together, it's hard to know which of the supplements is actually working. Super antiox is a great one to take daily. It's one of the few products I recommend that you can take 365 days of the year, because it is all about protecting us from oxidative damage, which we occur as we breathe. As I sit here and breathe, the whole process of respiration is creating free radicals. As we exercise, which it's suggested to us if we're trying to lose weight or just stay healthy, exercise can increase oxidative damage in the body. So that's why I say super antiox is wonderful for us, because we're all exposed to oxidative damage every single day. Now, you can use it by itself, or just for the record, I just wanted to let everyone know that it can be used safely with essential fatty acids of any kind, or ginkgo biloba, or any other herb that you might find in the super antiox, I should say, or not. Especially when we're looking at brain health, because the brain needs to be supported if we're not getting it through the diet. And as we get busier and busier with our lifestyle, many people just grab foods that are convenient. And we've become a society of convenience, and I completely understand that. So, as we might find ourselves slipping, we might need a supplement sometimes to support us. So, Super Antiox does provide antioxidants that work synergistically to protect us, different organ systems in the body, not just one specific area. Essential fatty acids provide the proper ratio of omega 3, 6, and 9 to help lower the risk of cognitive decline. So we could go the essential fatty acid route as well. The high potency fish oil provides omega 3, which again, looking at lacking in our Western diets, I would say the omega-3 is the one that we really need to amp up when we're looking at providing the body with omega-3s. You can get that from fish oil or plant-based oils as well. Safe for children, of course, people who are concerned about children's ability to focus or not, and their learning capabilities, retaining information. I find some days I feel like I need all the help I can get, because it wouldn't be a very good webinar if I forgot things, would it now? Okay, so it's not all about me. Ginkgo biloba supports peripheral circulation to enhance blood flow to the brain. Always a good thing that we enhance blood flow to the organs of detoxification, our brain, muscles. As oxygen flow becomes depleted, then we start to notice changes with the brain, of course. Now, you don't have to wait till there's something wrong, or that you're starting to forget things, I guess you could say. You don't have to wait for that. You can start using these products preventatively. For short term, many people will use them short term. They are safe for long term use. So that tends to be more of an issue, and a question surrounding supplementation is more about long periods of time. Now, I will clarify what I mean by long periods of time. It could be for 1, 2, 3, 4 months, and some people will take a break, of course. But we don't want to be relying on and using supplements as a crutch. And I know there are many people out there that don't make any changes to their diet or their lifestyle, and they just want to find the magic bullet or the magic pill. These are not magic. Far from it. They can help to support the body if we look at a proper exercise regimen, and what we're eating, what we're drinking. I really think that's very important. As a nutritionist, I need to talk about that. It's very important that we talk about that. And I think we're all aware of that. It's just I always suggest to take baby steps. Don't try and do things, don't make drastic changes. It's very difficult for people to cut certain types of foods out of their diet. For example, if you grew up on meat and potatoes and vegetables, who am I to tell you to stop eating meat? I would never do that. But as we start to incorporate different supplements and different foods as a strategy, it can make a world of difference to how people are feeling. Now, what happens if you're taking medications? Many people are, and they don't have to be older people. They could be teenagers, people who are middle-aged, seniors. Long ago, people just thought, it's just seniors that have to worry about taking medications, but that's not the case anymore. There's lots of young individuals taking medications for ADD or ADHD, to help with brain health and brain focus. So I would suggest 2 to 3 hours away from any medications for anybody who is taking medications for any of our supplements, not just these four, but for any of our supplements that we make. That is the general window that we suggest for medications and taking nutraceuticals. So that brings me to the end of this morning's presentation. Are there any questions or comments, something I may have forgotten to mention, something that you need an answer to? And if you can't think of anything right now, that's fine, because as I mentioned earlier, I'm always available to you through my email. You will get a copy of the presentation tomorrow. probably tomorrow, along with a link to the recording, because I find that as we are learning from different situations, not just these webinars, we're reading things, we're learning about things on the radio and through social media, which can also be taking people down. I think when I talk about social media, I just want to say social media can be good, but we can also get misinformed through social media. But if you want to get the goods and you want to get the right answers, come to Omega Alpha, reach out to me. If I can't get the answer for you, I will go to Dr. Chang. I will speak with my colleagues, people who've had experience with a number of these supplements. I'd just like to, again, welcome everybody back to our fall learning sessions. I'd like to thank you all for joining me this morning, and I hope you come back next month. Oh, you're welcome. Yes, absolutely, Tammy. Reach out to me, please. When you get my email, I think I might have spoken with you before, but if you don't have my email, you will definitely have it tomorrow. I will gladly help you pursue any questions or you need any answers. Please let me help you. I appreciate people reaching out to me. I like to be a resource for everyone, and I wish you a very happy Tuesday. Thank you so much again for joining me. Take care, everybody. Bye.